Boosie might be staring down a brutal 10-year stretch in that federal gun case, and the second that news hit the blogs, guess who sprinted online to celebrate? Charleston White. The moment it broke, Charleston jumped on live like it was his birthday party, laughing, calling it karma, and swearing he always knew Boosie would land right back behind bars. He even bragged that he'd been waiting for this day to come and said he wouldn't lose a wink of sleep if Boosie never made it home again. But here's the twist. Boosie had already told fans earlier this month that he accepted a plea deal because he was mentally and financially drained from fighting the case. He said it was the smartest move left, even though the case had been tossed once before. Prosecutors came back swinging in 2024, re-indicted him, and this time, the Fed snatched it up. What started as a state charge turned federal overnight. Boosie explained, "They had a Supreme Court ruling that went in my favor, and the judge dropped it, but now it's back." Now, he's staring down the real possibility of a decade behind bars. And while Boosie's online posting emotional messages about trusting God and finding strength, Charleston White's on live like it's New Year's Eve, laughing, trolling, and popping imaginary champagne. Boosie's been in and out of courtrooms for years, but this case? This one's different. It's the one that's got him boxed in, a felon with a firearm charge that almost nobody beats. At first, things actually looked promising for Boosie when the case got dismissed back in 2023. Fans were hyped, thinking the nightmare was over. Time to get back to the music, the shows, and family life. But the feds weren't letting him slide that easy. By 2024, they spun the block with a re-indictment on the exact same charge, basically saying, "Nice try, but we're still coming for you." That's when Boosie finally cracked and decided to take the plea deal. He even confessed it himself on X, saying, "I thought this case was over and I was going to get on with my life. But God don't make mistakes, and I'm tired of fighting." That hit deep, not just because it sounded defeated, but because you could feel how tired he really was. This wasn't just another bump in the road. This was the moment Boosie's past caught up, full speed, and there was nowhere left to run. When the news broke, fans flooded Boosie's mentions with prayers, hearts, and love, but you could see it plain as day. Boosie was crushed. This wasn't the same wild, trolling, clapback Boosie we're used to. This was a man who sounded completely worn out, like the years of fighting had finally taken their toll. His post carried that heavy mix of faith and surrender, like he was clinging to belief just to survive the moment. And if you followed Boosie's story from Baton Rouge to now, you already know he's been dodging death courtrooms and chaos since day one. But this time hit different. 10 years ain't no headline stunt. It's real life, and you could feel that weight in every word he typed. While fans were trying to lift him up, Charleston White was doing the complete opposite. He went live grinning ear to ear, bragging that he called it from the jump. Charleston flat out said he knew Boosie wouldn't beat the case, and when the news dropped, he didn't waste a second rubbing salt in the wound. He even said he hopes Boosie dies in jail. Wild words, even for Charleston. But let's be real, this is the same man who built his brand off trolling rappers and mocking their downfall. The sting hit even harder because Boosie hadn't even had time to breathe before Charleston turned his pain into entertainment. And here's the thing, Charleston trolling rappers isn't new. But when it comes to Boosie, it's personal. Every time Boosie runs into legal trouble, Charleston appears out of thin air, like he's been waiting for it. Fans are starting to wonder, why does Charleston White hate Boosie this much? Because this ain't just social media drama. This is years of built-up smoke. It all traces back to late 2022, when Kanye West sent the internet into a frenzy wearing that White Lives Matter shirt. Boosie spoke out, calling it flat-out disrespectful to black people, and most folks agreed. But Charleston, he wasn't rocking with it. He jumped online, fired shots at Boosie for even daring to check Kanye, and that's where the fire started. Instead of keeping it between him and Boosie, Charleston crossed the ultimate line, dragging Boosie's kids into the chaos. He called Tootsie Roar and even King Harris ugly, said they couldn't fight, and predicted they'd end up behind bars. That's when people realized this wasn't just trolling. Charleston was playing dirty, going after children to wound their parents. What shocked everyone was how calm Boosie stayed. Instead of exploding online like fans expected, he stayed cool. In an interview with Tony the Closer, he explained why one wrong move could land him back in a cell, especially when someone's baiting him by attacking his kids. That moment said it all. Boosie wasn't scared of Charleston. He was protecting his freedom. By early 2023, the beef had boiled past a point of no return. Tootie finally clapped back, calling Charleston old messy and telling him to go die. And Charleston, being Charleston, cranked it up 10 times worse. He went live wishing Boosie dead, even making cruel jokes about diabetes and insulin just to get under the kid's skin. Then, when Tootie got arrested on gun charges, Charleston popped up again, bragging that he'd tipped off police and claiming the Fed were already watching Boosie's family. Wild, unverified stuff, but Charleston hyped it like gospel. That was the breaking point. This wasn't just online smoke anymore. It was bleeding into real-life arrests, threats, and humiliation. Barely months later, Boosie himself got arrested in San Diego after a court hearing, and Charleston wasted no time turning it into content. He flipped Boosie's arrest into a twisted sermon about divine justice, comparing him to Daniel in the lion's den. Nobody could tell if he was preaching or trolling, but it came off cold and heartless either way. When Boosie finally spoke on Vlad TV, he said he didn't even want Vlad interviewing Charleston after things said about Tootie. He made it clear again, this wasn't fear, it was focus. He refused to let Charleston bait him into saying something that could send him back behind bars. Then came 2024, the year this beef went full-blown viral. Aiden Ross was supposed to bring Boosie on stream, but Boosie backed out, not wanting Charleston's name turning it into a circus. Aiden flipped the story, claiming he turned Boosie down out of loyalty to Charleston White. That lie spread like wildfire until DJ Vlad jumped in, calling Aiden out for siding with a man who once praised Hitler and denied the Holocaust. The whole fiasco showed how deep Charleston's reach had grown. Even young streamers were tossing his name around like clout currency. And Charleston still wasn't done. By March, he was back online again, claiming Boosie told promoters not to book him. He turned it into another rant, boasting that he called the feds and was ready to get Boosie locked up for making threats. Then, just to twist a knife, he dragged Boosie's health into it, mocking him like always. Charleston went live saying he was waiting on the FBI to send the right number so he could file a report, promising Boosie was going back to jail on his knees, bleeding. No proof, no receipts, just loud, toxic confidence. And the sad part? It worked. Boosie later admitted dudes in prison were calling him, jokingly asking when he'd be joining them. Insult to injury, all courtesy of Charleston White. And that's a part Boosie seemed to forget. This ain't a world built on logic. It's built on dominance. Once you walk into those kinds of rooms, respect becomes currency, and hesitation can cost you everything. That's why Charleston keeps saying Boosie played himself. Because in Charleston's eyes, Boosie's been trying to operate like his still street while living like a celebrity, and that contradiction always catches up. Charleston feeds on those moments, flipping them into viral fuel, mocking the downfall of anyone who ever tried to check him. But behind all that trolling, there's a twisted method to Charleston's madness. He's built a career on being the anti-rapper, a man who exposes hypocrisy while basking in it. Every time Boosie stumbles, Charleston's there to remind the world that the so-called real ones ain't so real when the pressure hits. He doesn't just want Boosie embarrassed, he wants him humiliated. He wants to prove that the same man who rapped about loyalty, brotherhood, and street code is just another cautionary tale about pride. The sad part is, Charleston might actually get what he wants this time. Boosie's been moving different, quieter, more introspective. His posts sound like someone who's accepted that the streets don't love you back. His talking more about God, family, and peace, things that don't go viral but tell the real story of a man who's tired of fighting ghosts. It's almost like Boosie's realizing that the loudest ones cheering your downfall were never rooting for your rise in the first place. And that's what makes this whole feud so disturbing. It's not just two men trading words. It's trauma versus trauma. Two products of the same broken system, weaponizing pain for entertainment. Boosie's fighting for redemption, Charleston's fighting for relevance, and somewhere in between, hip-hop gets caught in the crossfire. Fans keep debating who's real, but at this point, real don't even matter. It's who survives the longest without losing their soul that counts. Because if we're being honest, this ain't a rap beef, it's a morality play. Boosie's sitting at a crossroad between freedom and legacy, and Charleston sitting on the sidelines laughing like a man who's already made peace with being hated. The internet loves the chaos, But what happens when the circus pack up and Boozy's left alone with 10 years and a head full of regrets? That's the tragedy nobody's ready to talk about. And that's where the streets turn poetic. Loyalty becomes a weapon, and respect becomes a setup. Boozy thought he was playing the game, but he forgot he was sitting across from professional manipulators who make a living off flipping trust into trophies. The second you mix personal emotion with street business, you're done. Duke wasn't the first to fall for that we brothers talk, and he won't be the last. That's the bait, the illusion that you're among family when really, you're standing in a den of wolves dressed in designer hoodies. The truth is, those mob-tie circles Boozy kept brushing shoulders with ain't about unity. They're about leverage. Every favor has a price. Every connection comes with strings. And the minute you forget that, you become the product. That's why the Duke situation still haunts the timeline. Because deep down, everyone knows it wasn't just a robbery. It was a betrayal. A silent message that in this game, you can't afford to have a heart. And Charleston White is eating that narrative up. He's spinning it into a sermon about fake gangsters and street karma, using Duke's death and Boozy's downfall as proof that the culture's collapsing under its own lies. He's clowning, sure, but he's also preaching. He's saying what a lot of people are too scared to admit, that the same street code Boozy once glorified is the same one burying his reputation today. What makes it worse is the optics. Boozy's sitting on the sidelines, fighting charges and losing allies, while Charleston's on live stacking views off his pain. It's not even about truth anymore. It's about who can Mondayize the mess faster. The rappers sell records, Charleston sells reactions, and the streets sell stories. And somewhere in the middle, the real ones, the Dukes of the world, keep paying the ultimate price. So when people say this beef's about pride or clout, they're missing it entirely. It's about survival in a world where loyalty don't pay bills and integrity don't trend. Boozy tried to finesse the streets one more time, but the game's evolved. Now, it finesses back. So yeah, when Charleston White starts laughing, it's twisted, but it makes sense. He's not celebrating death. He's exposing the irony. The wolves finally ate each other. The street prophets got exposed as frauds. The code that everyone swore by folded the second it got tested. A man lost his life thinking he was walking into a brotherhood, when really, he was walking into a setup. And the worst part? His family is still out here begging for justice from men who don't even know the meaning of the word. So if the streets are finally seeing accountability, good. Maybe that's what karma looks like when the smoke clears. Charleston's laughter ain't joy. It's the sound of the game turning on itself. Boozy's just facing the ghost he's been dodging for years, and the internet's watching every second of it. The story's not over, but the message is clear. Nobody outruns what they build. Anyway, I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Boozy deserves his karma, or is Charleston just pushing it too far? Speak your truth. I'll be reading. And if you made it this far, don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn those notifications on. Because this right here, this is where we break down the real, unfiltered side of the culture. Every week, every day, no fluff, just facts.